welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I have a treat for you. Um, Today is a messy morning for me. I've got my coffee that matches my shirt because if I'm gonna be messy, I'm gonna be royal blue about it. I have AJ with us, and AJ is amazing. Of course I say that everyone's amazing on this channel, but that's the best. I only curate the best, so everyone is amazing. And AJ is the cream of the crop in what she does, and she does a lot. I met her at the time she was doing virtual assistants while living in Korea for someone I met in a group on Facebook, and we connected and I did a reading for her, and then we've continued to connect. And what I am most impressed with AJ is she obviously she's going to tell her story, so I'm summing it up. And I think it's interesting to kind of share my perspective and then they share the truth of what their experience is, and sometimes they don't always match up, but like our perceptions are the stories in our head that play out, right? So AJ had an event that made it so she couldn't do what she was doing before, so she had to start over, which is the whole theme of the channel. And she's worked so hard to integrate pleasure and joy into her life, not just as like rewards for reaching a goal, but as a way to live. And one of the ways she talks about that is with nervous system, which is really what I wanted to talk about at the beginning today, the nervous system, because when you're starting over and you have high ideals, like you can have all this stuff going on, like, oh, I'm gonna be the hero of my story, and then you hit your nervous system, and that's where the shipwrecks, like honestly. And I'm feeling it, and I'm like, no, not today, not today. We're not shipwrecking. We're just going to be gentle and look like we just woke up. And so AJ's genius is like branched out in 15 different directions. So that's fun and I love it. And I have no idea what's going to come up after the nervous system regulation. So, AJ, do you want to share a little bit about your starting over and then get into all the good stuff?
Yeah. What an intro. That was lovely. I might have to like
Thank you.
cut that and play that back. It's always cool to see how things are perceived. Yeah, I had burned out severely. Um, and I'm a military spouse, so we had a cross-continental move from America to Korea. So I was burnt out. It was exhausted. It was 2022. Yeah. So it was like post COVID, sort of still a little there. And then I was also 9 months sober during that transition. So it was just like my nervous system was shot, my creativity was shot, like everything was like tanks are empty, like battery low. Um, and so then, yeah, I did the virtual assisting and I did that for about a year. And then my hands went out with carpal tunnel, like bad carpal tunnel in both hands to the point where I had custom braces made and I had to shut down my entire business for 3 months. So then we had to like restart again. And because I did soul work and creative stuff before. So it was like, and then focus tech stuff and was great at that. And there was like, okay, just kidding, no hand stuff. So now I do henna and coaching and I've got use of my hands back, but we live a little baby spoon life. So not full spoony, but sometimes we're like, okay, that's enough for today. So yeah, that's kind of my journey right now. And we're in expansion mode. We just moved to Mississippi, but it's going really well and life is good. And I'm so excited to talk about this because so many people think it's just a mindset thing, but it's a whole body thing. So yeah, let's roll. And I like this blue on you as well. So, and with your background,
Thank
like,
you.
it's nice.
My forest background, my enchanted forest background.
Yeah,
Behind it is all of my life on a bookcase. Um,
sparks.
I do. Oh, and my heater just popped on. I hope it doesn't. I'll just trust that Zoom will zoom that out. I love that you do henna. How did I overlook the henna? We do have to we have to talk about your henna for a second because you do
Yeah,
beautiful, beautiful artwork with henna.
thank you. Yeah. I've been doing henna for about 9 years now, which is wild to think about. But I love it. And it's a way to make people feel adorned and good in their
Mm.
bodies. I do it at festivals, one on one appointments, parties, things of that nature. And then there's lots of henna communities. If anybody watching is interested in getting into henna, there's always space for more people to explore this art form. Henna Society is a really great Facebook group to join. And
Cool.
Catherine Lent, you can find her on Facebook, Catherine Lent Designs. She teaches classes that are really fabulous as well. Yeah. And you can
That's
see kind of
awesome.
remnants. It's like 2 weeks old, so it's sort of fading, but it's still there.
I love it. I love like the thing I think is really cool about henna, and we are definitely going to get back to the nervous system, but like, so you just got into Biloxi and you want to go meet people, and you're able to use your henna as a way to get out there and meet people. I think that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of people are looking for connection, but they're looking for ways to latch on. So when you wear something that's easy to remark upon, and I learned this from Hillary Rushford Collier, and she's a stylist, and she closed down her business, but she had these 10 rules of style, and her first one was wear one thing that's easy to remark upon. So somebody can say, "Oh, I love that color blue on you," or "Oh, I love your henna or your red lipstick," or "Those earrings are really cool." And it just makes that access point for communication a little bit easier versus like, how do I approach them? Like it's an icebreaker that's easy that you're kind of putting on a platter for other people. And so henna is a really great icebreaker to be like, "Hi, I do henna. Like, do you want to be friends or do you want to host an event or things like that?" So I love it. People love it, and sometimes people have only had it once or they've always thought about it, but I've never, and then they're like, "Okay, I'll try it." So
Mhm.
it's cool. Yeah.
It's like face painting for adults, like, but in a cool way, and it lasts, but it doesn't last forever. It's not like a permanent tattoo. So that's
Yeah.
awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
should we get into the nervous system stuff and how you
Yeah.
use joy and pleasure as a way to like calibrate your nervous system? Because it's like, I think everyone thinks of hustling as like, oh, I'm doing good, I'm hustling, but it's kind of the opposite.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yes. I I think we can have speed in our businesses, but if hustle is the only fuel that we're pouring in, it doesn't have a return energetically to nourish our body. It's just feeding the dopamine, but not like the serotonin part of our bodies, if like
Mm-hmm.
the hormone kind of side of it. Um, but yeah, I'm curious what this looks like for you as you're building your business, like how you're cultivating joy or being like, okay, like I'm finding some spaciousness here in my body. Or like today, you're like, ooh, we're feeling it. So you wore a beautiful blue color. But yeah, I'm curious your thoughts as well.
I would love to share. So I grew up very much like the idea of hustling, but like my dad was an entrepreneur and he's just like go, 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 go. And he had his own
Yeah.
business. Like I was 8, he opened a print shop and I would work for him like on the weekends and afternoons. So like from a very young age, the idea of go, 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 and just like push and push and push was like ingrained into my head. And I was very like goal focused. It was really about accomplishing things. Like that was the bread and butter of why I live my life. Like get that to-do list done. And then I graduated with my master's and it didn't give me the accolades that I was expecting. Like I had the paper, but um I didn't have the joy, I didn't have the satisfaction. And it was a real break in the illusion of that story for me. And I was just like, this is crap. Like everything I've been sold is a lie. Um and it was actually finding Mama Gina, and we've talked about Mama Gina, where it's
Yeah.
like I live for pleasure, right? And it was such a counterintuitive, and I really latched onto it at first, but then my inner resistance really kicked in, and then some things happened that really helped my inner resistance have a story of why it was bad and why, like it's just ego, like all of these things. And what I've come to realize was a lot of that was internalized misogyny and unpacking that has been a journey. And a lot of the journey has been all about really taking ownership for what I want and what I desire. And you can have everything that you desire, but if you can't enjoy it, it's kind of useless. Like there's no point in putting myself through hell if I'm not going to enjoy the rewards of why I'm putting myself through hell. And I just say that as somebody who like that was very much the mindset, like strive and strife and work and work and work, like the Puritan mindset or whatever. It was like alive and well and thriving, but not or surviving. It's never thrived. It's never thrived. Can we just be honest about that? And it's like someone introduced to me to the idea of the hungry ghost from like I think it's Japanese, but I don't know enough. So like this is just a very brief reference to the idea of the hungry ghost, but it consumes and consumes and consumes and will just continue consuming like a cancer without ever being satiated because it's a hungry ghost. It doesn't have a body to actually experience satiation.
Yeah.
And a teacher that I worked with a lot, or that I just admire. She said that greed is fine when it's combined with gratitude. Like, be as greedy as you want, and as long as you can embody the gratitude within your body, it's actually a good thing. It's not greed is good in like the uh, movie that Michael Douglas was in, Wall Street, Wall Street. Like, because that's just the hungry ghost, more and more and more, consume, consume, consume. It's this idea that it's okay to have a desire and be greedy about your desires. And then when you can really embody the joy of experiencing the thing that you desire, it's orgasmic, like honestly. And like as I'm saying this, it's one thing to talk about it as a lived experience. It's another thing to think about, to stop and pause and be like, what is going on in my nervous system right now? What's the feedback loop? What's firing? And it's like, oh, there's resistance here and there's joy here, and there's different parts of me like firing up. And sometimes, like in the middle, when you're working with your nervous system, because it's not like you can just knock it all down and rebuild, right? And you have to integrate, like it's a piece at a piece. It's like when they're redoing the highway, they shut down parts and they do detours and they work on it and then they move along, and hopefully they're doing good quality work so it lasts. But
I like that reference. That's a good metaphor.
I was watching a bunch of home improvement reels yesterday, and I was just like home inspections, and I'm like, why am I so like stuck on this? Like everything else I would swipe by, and I was just like, things would be leaking, and I'd get so mad. And I was like, it's the craftsmanship. Like if you're gonna build something, like I like the idea of craftsmanship. Maybe that's where that work ethic still like go go go. It's kind of
Yeah.
shifted over into being like, no, good quality, solid. Like it can take a long time, but I want it well built. My dad
Yeah.
moved to New Mexico, and he built a house after he sold his business. And it was the happiest while he was building that house. Like he really took his time and he really did quality work. And it was the happiest I've ever seen him. Like to be in the process of building something at his own pace with his own artistry. And I think
Yeah.
that that was also like a click for me, that like, oh, maybe the hustle isn't the way to live. So this morning, yeah, I'm feeling it in my nervous system. So I want to go back because you talked about your carpal tunnel, because like
Mhm.
you hustle, right? You go and you go and you go, and then it's easy for your body to do something, not easy, but like if your body stops you, you have to stop and recalibrate. Like you can't hustle through carpal tunnel.
No, no. I tried and it was brutal. Um, yeah, you said so many good things. I'm like, I should have been taking notes.
Oh, it's recorded.
Because I was just like, yeah, no, yeah. Um, but I think we'll talk about carpal tunnel in a second. I think what you said too about go, 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 and then also like the do it well, that these things got linked up to be the same. But there's the like, you can have it fast, cheap, or well done, but you can't have all three. Like you can pick two out of the three or things like that. And
Mm-hmm.
then I don't remember if you know Liz Gilbert, the author, Eat, Pray, Love.
Yes, yes.
Okay. She made a post a long time ago, and your greed statement kind of stuck out because was like, I'm no longer answering questions about selfishness. She's like, everybody's like, wasn't it selfish to leave your husband? Wasn't it selfish to go on this trip? Isn't it selfish to be a writer? And she's like, I think it's in Chinese. There's multiple words for selfish. There's selfish, greedy, hoardy, and then there's selfish, taking care of yourself. So as you were sharing about greed with gratitude, and I was like, I've never heard greedy used in good context, excuse me, ever. And so I was like, oh man, the amount of like weight on the word greedy is
Mm-hmm.
like immense. Like even with gratitude, it's like, no, I'll see, but it's like, oh, I wonder if greed can have multiple meanings. Like we only have one word for love. Greeks have what, seven? Maybe other
Mm-hmm.
languages have more words for greed than we do. So, but I like that because I think what happens with our bodies and our nervous systems is that we think it's just one thing, right? Like shut it all down and reboot the system. Like, did you turn it off and plug it back in again? It's like, it's not how it works. That's not how any of this works. Um, but yeah, carpal tunnel is, I tried. And part of it is I was hustling. I was doing like 11-hour days of tech work for VA. Like when I look back, I would get like hyper focused into it and I would like go and do all the stuff. And then my hands would hurt. And I'm like, okay, it's just because I'm on a laptop or it's just because of this. And I got a mouse, but
Mm.
eventually I got to a place where my hands were like screaming in pain. And I was also like weightlifting and doing all this stuff. And finally I got to a place where I was like, something's up because I was breaking plates and glasses, like dropping things. Like my hand would freeze when I'm
Wow.
typing. Like I couldn't type. I like couldn't draw. Like it was wild. It was wild. Yeah. And then I remember going and I was like, hey, can I do some exercises or what's going on? And they're like, you need to like stop everything. I'm like, I can't stop everything. Like, don't be dumb. But they were like, no, like you, and literally, because I laughed and he like had a serious face. I'm like, I can't just stop weightlifting. Like, this is how I purge my adrenaline. He's like, well, maybe you can run. He's like, but do you like your hands? If you like your hands and you want them in 60 years, you need to stop for 3 months. And that was like a wake up call because, yeah. So there's been two times that my body's pulled the hard lever. I thought I was a good listener, but maybe I'm a better listener now because that was brutal. Yeah, it'll pull it if you don't listen or don't learn to listen, right? It's a practice.
Yeah, like listening to your body before it breaks. I love so much that you kind of went into that because I feel like that's the hustle. That's the hustle. And it's like you didn't even the pain that may have been going on, you didn't even know you didn't like it didn't register. What registered was the lack of function, things falling out of your hands, your grip not being able to grippy grip. Um and I think that's really powerful because it's like it shows that you have the capacity to push through pain, right? Like push through the pain. No, no. But it's not always healthy to do so because pain is communication within your body that something needs attending. And it doesn't mean that you have to stop when there's pain. It means you need
Yeah.
to stop and listen, like assess like what's happening, like with the pause, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And to shift from that to the way you live your life now where it's a lot more pleasure based and you
Mhm.
really work on like you actively look at ways to add joy to your life. Like joy isn't just some mysterious byproduct that just maybe shows up if you're lucky on Tuesday. Like you
Yeah.
you purposely have things in your to-do list that bring joy. And I
Yeah.
love that so much because it's like that same go-getter attitude that was doing the weightlifting and the 11-day VA like it's cultivating joy for you now. And like the look on it is outside might look different because you're not doing this huge to-do list of tasks, but yet like your posts are full of joy, your outfits. I loved the other day when you were packing for Korea, and you had like 5 days of joy that you were doing, and one of them was to
Yeah.
wear clothing that purposely gave you joy, like your favorite outfit.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes to all of that. I think a lot of people don't put enough. I like that you said, um, joy is not like a mysterious stranger that shows up on Tuesdays for me if I'm lucky. Um, I think I forget how that's not exactly true. Hold on. I'm aware of how intentional I am in cultivating a joy-led life. I forget that other people don't operate from the same standpoint. Like for now it feels so obvious. And I did this before too in different ways, but I naturally ran high. So it's like I've always been a happy, joyful person, but the expansion and rootedness, it was like a frenetic joy before. Does that
Mm.
make sense? Of like, go and I'll do
Yeah,
all
like
the things and everybody needs me. Yeah. And then
yeah.
when I burned out, I was just like, like a husk of a human. And
Mm.
and that was rough. And sobriety was rough. And getting back to Korea, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a human. This feels good. And like life is good. And like, look at the flowers. This is great. And then my hands went out and it was like, and so then it became a practice of being good with reality. And I think so often we think, I'll be happy if, and you've probably heard this, right? Like, if I do this, then I'll have that and I'll be happy. And then,
Mhm.
but really, we gotta flip it of like, okay, how can I be happy now? How can I be grounded now? And then I can do these things and maybe I'll have that, but like unattaching them and like what are the ways to cultivate. And so I go running and I got back into weightlifting, now that I've got like my hands back, and but the way I dress or putting lotion on or like listening to music or going for a run in the morning, like I know how to set up my day in a way that like makes me feel alive and good. And then this is also like boundaries, right? The way we talk about other people, the way we talk to ourselves, like, it's all related. But I think it comes down to, do you think you're worthy of joy? Do you think you're worthy of goodness? Like, do you think life has to be hustle? Do you think it has to be hard? Like, do you think you have to suffer? Like, if that's our baseline, like, it's like the pleasure thing. Yeah. I'm curious what's
Yeah.
coming up for you and your thoughts.
Um, I loved what you said about boundaries. I know boundaries is kind of a buzzword currently, and people can use the word in a way of manipulation where it's like, my boundaries are that you don't do this, and it's like a control thing.
Yeah.
But there's also like boundaries internally, right? Like when you're weightlifting, you are using those muscles again. So you're using what developed the carpal tunnel, but you're not using those areas of your body the same way you were that caused the breakdown. Like you're a lot more cognizant of what's going on. You tune in. And so sometimes boundaries are like internal rules of our own self-discipline, of being able to monitor what's best for us, and then integrating that internally, regardless of like outside stimulus. And I mean, obviously, when there's a lot going on, it's harder and the chaos can be disruptive, but you still do the best that you can. Like it doesn't have to be perfect. We're not going for perfection. We're going for internal, like modulating ourselves or whatever. And
Yeah.
I I love that, like, mindset work is really interesting to me because it's like the way some people talk about mindset, it's like downloading an operating system, right? And so I'm going to be in that high achiever entrepreneur like OS or whatever. And in a sense I get that, but I'm also not a machine. Like I love technology and I'm not so good at working it all the time. I have no qualms with AI. I think it's interesting watching how it interacts, like watching the interaction between humans and their humanity and AI and its artificial intelligence fascinates me, just like observation. But I really like my humanness, and I've spent a lot of years really caring about the fact that I am a human and I want to have a human experience. And within that, it's overwhelming sometimes, like the potentials of what we can do and be and what we can like set, right? Like what do you prioritize? Like family, career, financial well-being, like those are things that people often just like take for granted as a priority. With good reason. I'm not saying they shouldn't be priorities, but like happiness and joy can be top priorities. Like you can honestly prioritize joy above your credit score. And I'm not saying that anybody needs to do anything. I'm just saying it's a possibility that sometimes when we live in a very regimented way of life that's like, I want to be a good citizen, we don't necessarily question what we're signing ourselves up for. And so it's like we take externalized things and make those our boundaries. Well, I'm always going to do this so that I always like I'm never going to quit a job until I have another job lined up so I have a solid resume. Like those are boundaries and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's like when that becomes a prescriptive way of working, it's like having a solid work history becomes a priority. And is it like internally, like the thought of that being a priority just fills me with drudge it just, and it's not that there's anything wrong with it. Like there really isn't. To me, it's just, it sucks creativity out. And that's my experience. Like other people, they might get fired up about that. And that's awesome. And I celebrate that for them. But I think one of the hardest things of starting over is setting a new priority and then really like internally doing the work of like boundaries but also the self-discipline around it. And that's kind of where like the nervous system does come in because it that's where the rebuilding is, that has to be done in sections, that you can't just rip it all out and put something else. Yeah, anyway, I wanted to go to when you were talking about it was difficult with your the burnout and the sobriety and the international move. Can we just throw that in there too? Because that's stressful in and of itself, just generally. Talk about anxiety inducing, all of those things, like feeling the vulnerability of not being on a full tank of gas all the time, and especially when you're used to running in that. And then, so yeah, the burnout, the demands of an international move, and then also changing something like going sober can be really hard because you're used to having something, a chemical in your body that's gone, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I have a question, but I don't know what to actually ask. I guess like in the reference of everything we've talked about, what comes up with you, what comes up for you with that experience?
Yeah. I think what comes up is, for me, it was, what is a life worth living? Like
Mm,
when I got sober, there were so many people that got sober because they couldn't have alcohol. In the community I found in the 12 steps, I found that were like, okay, I can't have alcohol, so I'm here. Right. And I found my body just doesn't agree with alcohol. So that's why I stopped. But I didn't want to run from something. I wanted to move towards an aligned life. And so when you were talking about priorities, a couple months ago, a client asked me about my top values, and I think I gave them to her, and then I made a post about it. And it's kind of like embodied alignment, bone resonance, things like this. And I think joyful was in there, but I don't think it was like my top one, because I think when we're living in alignment, spirit flow, your body, however you want to call that, it's like a byproduct of not trying to fight against things, but like, okay, what am I called to be? And am I living in that? Am I stepping in that? Am I showing up in integrity? And am I filling my well so that I have this overflow? So I'm not scraping off parts of me to serve up to other people.
mm,
And so it's like I had all this evidence of who I had to be, or what an approved woman, because people are like, AJ, you're fine. Like, why are you getting stupid? Like, that's stupid, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I don't know. But here I am, like, here's the next right step that was given to me, right? And 10 points for anybody who enjoys their margarita. Like, love it. Go team go. I just can't anymore, and that's fine. But for me, I couldn't think of what I'm leaving. It's like, what is my vision? What am I being pulled to? And that's like a vibrant, sober, aligned life. And it's like, okay, what does that look like? How does she show up? And like, that has changed everything, asking that question of what would, and then Mama Gina, yeah, taking her virtual boot camp class changed everything, and like made me come alive in ways I did not know were possible. Like the way I feel in my body now is more embodied, grounded, true, and vibrant than I've ever been in my entire life. Like between that and LARP, just
I love that.
reset my nervous system and my body, right? And I think we forget about play and kindness and gentleness, and asking not as it's a machine, like something to fix, but like we're in a relationship with our bodies and our souls. And we can be like, okay, here's the script that the world wants from me, but it's like, what is the script you want to write for your life? Just because everybody else is like, okay, we got to do this. Okay, but the life I'm building looks different, and that's okay. And then having that community has been amazing to see other women living in similar ways of like, oh, there's some toxic stuff over here, and there's hard stuff everywhere, but this is so life giving. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Mm.
I do, and it
What
makes
about
me happy to be like, yeah, no, yes, I know. I'm not just agreeing because I don't want to look like I don't know what I'm talking about. And then like that wasn't an overnight thing for me. And like there were times I'm like, am I gonna make it? Like what is even happening right
you?
now? Because it
Yeah.
was like such a fundamental change. It's such a baseline of like my reality and my interaction with myself and my identity. And it was like, who am I? Like I don't even know who I spent 30 years being this and it's not applicable anymore. Like what does that leave? Like what's in the absence of everything I've known that isn't working, that feels like alive, that feels contrived. And it's because it was contrived. And it's because I wasn't really taught how to source my answers from within. It was always outside, like the script you're saying. Like I wasn't
Yes.
really
Yeah.
taught to like how to make my own script, but the desire to know it overrode everything. Like it
Mhm.
overrode what I was taught. It overrode what I was prescribed to be, and it was just like, we're gonna figure this out one way or another. And like sometimes lots of steps backwards, steps forwards, like a very like confusing path. But once that path, like it's almost once I chose like, okay, whatever my power is, like whatever this thing is where it's like I'm reclaiming my power, like that's what I'm committing to. Like I am committing to wherever this goes. Like I don't know. I don't know. I've been all over the place. I have no idea where anything's going anyway. But it was like once I'm like, I'm just gonna get back to my own power, like whatever that means. And that's where things like started to sharpen and like fade out the stuff that's extraneous, and like the stuff that
Yeah.
feels true and good started to really sharpen.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious, where are you finding clarity now? Like what's tugging you forward or becoming more aware of like, oh, I'm desiring more of this, or this feels really true in this moment.
You know, this is a lot for me to talk about, but I'm going to because it's a really good question. So one of the things that Mama Gina talks about is the powers of connecting to our pussies. And I grew up in a very religious household that even saying that word, even now, after years of work, I still trigger myself with that word. And I was working with a client and I was talking about sacral chakra, and she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then I finally was just like, your pussy. And she's like, oh, okay. Like, why was that so hard for you? And I'm like, I don't know, but it was, and it is. And like, even right now, I'm like, I just want to hedge. I just want to say the nice things. Like the prudishness in me is still very active. Like, it's like safe, right? And or it feels safe. That's the thing, is it feels safe, but it's not safe. It's not safe because it takes me away from the deepest rooting that I have. It takes me away from being deeply connected to the earth, like organically planted. Like I plant, I'm a big gardener. I can't have my tomatoes not have their roots in the ground. Like that doesn't
Yeah.
work. Like they're not air plants, and I'm not an air plant. And I need my roots, and I need to be able to flow energy up, and I need to be able to flow energy down, like unquestionably. So when I really get into what the second chakra is, it's finance, it's pleasure, it's inner child, it's creativity, and all of those things are not weighted. But then there's also sexuality and sensuality, and then the weight drops. Like when you were talking about greed, with the different, are there different words for sexuality and sensuality? Like why does eating a really good orange not trigger the same shame as pleasuring myself, you know? And it's like because of cultural context. Like if I
Yeah.
were a bonobo living in the jungle, it wouldn't matter because I would just be doing animal behavior. But because I'm human and I have these things and I inherited this stuff, like all of a sudden there's a moral judgment. I'm gonna die anyway. Like one day I'm gonna be buried, or I'm gonna be ash, or I'm not gonna be here. What does it matter what I do with myself in the pleasure of my own space? Like whether I'm enjoying a juicy orange or I'm getting it on with my like, and yet like as I'm closing off, like did you see how I stopped mid-sentence because I'm like, don't talk about that. um but in the rise of things that scare me, rooting into that energy, like breathing into my pussy, that is where I find courage, that is where I find strength, that is where
Yeah.
I find regulation. And I mean, even just watching, look at the difference in how I'm talking right now compared to how I was talking at the beginning of the video. Like, this is an important message. Like, this is a thing that I feel very passionately about. And yet putting it out there scares me. It absolutely terrifies me. But what terrifies me more is the consistent going on of people not having that information. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
that's what's up. And it's up in a big way. Like, I have a lot of internal struggle going right now, but I one of the things the work has taught me is that tension is not bad. Okay, tension, inner tension's not bad. And inner struggle is not bad. Like when I have an inner conflict, it doesn't necessarily mean that I have to self-sabotage or I have to suffer. It's literally a conversation. Like you were saying, it's our relationship. So when I frame things like, okay, these two very powerful animated parts of me are not on the same page. What is their relationship to each other? Like, then it's
Mhm.
not like one's not bad, one's not good. It's two very vibrant. like I'm a very stubborn person, like very stubborn, and sometimes it's a pain. Like I'm the biggest pain in my own ass sometimes, like honestly. But I love that about me. I absolutely love that about me because I know when I show up, I'm showing up. And in that space, I have to know that every part of me has that same grit. Like the inner child isn't different than the inner crone or whatever. Like those are just what popped into mind. Like I don't get to alienate the stubbornness of one in favor of the stubbornness of the other. They both get to show up in equality because they're all me. And so when I think about that, what is the relationship? Like, where's the disagreement? What's like, and that's where I can kind of fine tune. So like today, I was having a rough morning, and it was like, do you want to reschedule? And it was like, no, I just want to allow myself to show up. Like I'm not overdoing it, you know. Like my hair is messy bun. I- I'm just showing up as I am. But I'm doing this. Yes to doing it, no to being over performative. Like that's kind
Mm.
of where the end came from. And I'm a big proponent of consent, and like not just like in sexual situations where you're like, he's hot, I'm kind of lukewarm, is it a yes or a no? Um, when it comes to a lot of mindset work, like there'll be things like your mindset needs to be this, 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 and this. And I'm like, some of those I'm a yes for, and some of those I'm a no. And is it like really fair to override consenting? What do you want to say? I can see that there's like something coming. So what?
Oh, no, you're good. You've just touched on multiple different things that just have I just have it's just bringing up different thoughts and memories. So, no, you're totally good. I mean, I can say something, but you were in the middle of
Yeah,
your
no,
sentence. So,
what just came up because it felt like it needed to, like it was like voice that. Like
mm, yeah, I was thinking I went in March to a thing called Knutpunkt, and it's a LARP conference in
mm,
Oslo. Next year it'll be in Sweden. But at the Edu LARP conference, there's someone named Sparrow Aaron Deneen, I think, and they gave a consent talk, but they said so many people think of consent about sex and that it has to be enthusiastic, but we consent to brush our teeth, and sometimes we're just willing to brush our teeth, or we consent to go to do this thing even if we're not really in the mood. And so there's so much talk about you should be enthusiastically saying yes, but also sometimes you're curiously consenting, sometimes you're wondering and consenting. Like there's these layers to it. So I was just thinking
mhm.
about the consent conversation, that you're like, consent isn't always about sex. And I was like, exactly, it's about so many different things. So it's just, yes.
So yeah, consent is completely related to personal power because if you're different parts of you are like an inner democracy or republic, like like majority rules basically, or most like loquacious. Anyway, internally you make a decision, and for every decision, if it's actually a decision, you're gonna have two sides. Like if it's just an instant yes, it's not even a decision. It's just like complete alignment, complete like okay, no problems there, right? But it's where there's the sticky where who we create ourselves to be really shows up. Like, um, if you have an identity and you're in a dilemma, your identity is what helps you navigate that dilemma. So it's like if you have absorbed stuff externally, you have a script, like a role you're playing, and you're in a dilemma, that script is what's going to tell you how to navigate it. But there's no real personal power in that. You're just playing out somebody else's character in a sense, or a mishmash of many people's characters. But like internally, if you're in line with your power, you have to hear the different parts of you, just like with your carpal tunnel, and you were like telling the doctor, and you're like, you're dumb, like I'm not gonna stop weightlifting because I need that for my, like alleviating my adrenaline. Like I need that, that's part of my self-care. um there was a part of you that was like no, but there was also a part of you that was yes, so it was like there was this tension, and your identity informs, and also you create your identity in response to that. So it's like it's a two-way thing, so there really is a relationship going on, right? And so when you decided to honor your body's need and take those 3 months off, it helped you reset. And it wasn't a no to weight training indefinitely. It was just a no to weight training at the moment. And you've been able to reintegrate that because you said yes. at a time when your body needed to recover so that you could say yes to that later on. So it's like there was an inner dynamic that you ran through with that, right? And so like if you're really in your power, you have to be able to check in authentically with the different parts of you and figure out where the yes and the no are and like what is coming up and like how to navigate it. Like opposing needs doesn't necessarily mean that something needs to be a fight. It just needs to be more fine-tuned and nuance needs to be allowed. And so like I think consent's really important because when you knowingly consent to something, you knowingly are putting your power in it one way or the other. Like you're either not or you are. And it's really hard to be accountable or hold yourself accountable if you're not actually taking ownership of the decisions you make. And that's basically what consent is it's ownership for saying yes and saying no. Like there's an ownership for what your answers are in those types of situations. And there's layers and layers and layers within that as well. Um a lot of in the healing spaces, in the coaching spaces, I'd say it's more a mentoring situation than coaching just because of the difference of the two. But it's like if you have a mentor that did something a certain way and they're like, just do what I did, like you're a robot and you just like imitate them, um, it might work for a while, but there's always holes when you're like imposing something and pushing out. So at some point that's going to come unwound. And that can be hard because it worked and you're like, what's wrong with me? Why didn't I follow the rules? Why didn't it happen? um I feel that very strongly because I had this sense of like, this is what I need to do to be a good, I was such a good employee. I always had like top ratings on everything, top customer service marks, like really good, all of that. But the thing was it was like the people pleasing in me was just really good at people pleasing professionally. um I wasn't necessarily consenting. I was consenting to the role that I was playing, but it wasn't a deeper, like, I wasn't in a place of ownership. And that's something that entrepreneurship has really, like, challenged the crap out of me because it's like I am responsible for the decisions I make, good or bad. And when I was an employee, it was like I could be top rated and do everything great, but I didn't have to take ownership. And good employees are amazing. And I'm just saying that in my journey, that was something that I learned was that I like to be responsible up to a point, but then I like to push off the deeper responsibility onto other people. So I wasn't held responsible if things went wrong. And that's a family pattern. Like I've observed that in my family. Bless all of us because we're doing the best we can and we all have our pains and our traumas, right? But that's not what I wanted. The thing is that like nothing is even inherently wrong with that except that I just don't like it and I wanted more. And so it was like that was how I was raised, but my desire um overrides settings, like always. And I feel like I kind of went on course, but I'm still on course. So that's kind of like the consent piece for me. It's like consent is about being able to own your power. Like they're directly connected. They're directly connected.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree because I think giving consent comes from that place and we can feel safe here but not feel safe here. Like there's multiple ways of
Mhm.
feeling safe or like logically we feel safe but then mentally we feel unsafe. Like there's like layers and as we kind of like start wrapping up too, I think it's important for people to realize this is why it's important to know what your true inner voice looks like, right? Because even if you're pitting, at least for me, my filter, if I'm pitting two parts against each other or with each other, being like, okay, Brenda, my inner critic's going wild, and my little creativity self that's like, but if we don't make art, I'm gonna melt, whatever. But if I'm not staying rooted in like my big soul, my like true inner knowing to hold space for both of them, because neither of them are fully right. They're just parts, but it's like that deep inner knowing, that's where my like, here's what I need to do next. That's not yelling loud, fast, like, oh, we need to do this. Like anything that's loud, fast, creepy, slimy, like none of that's my true inner voice. And so being able to hold the parts comes from knowing who you are in your big soul, because I think being able to acknowledge all these parts is so vital, because otherwise it gets so loud. And then people are like, which part is actually me? So, yeah, um, the personal power and consent piece. Yeah, it's good
I
stuff.
love that the idea of the parts and the information and then the big self kind of being like the one that manages it all and actually makes, although that's turning it into a mechanical process, but like just as a very high level like of how it works, there's truth to that. Um
Yeah. Have you heard of internal family systems?
yeah, I love
Yeah.
internal family systems. And they've come
So
up on,
that's,
in interviews before. Very
yeah.
helpful, I think.
Yeah. So that's what it's based off of. For me, it doesn't feel mechanical. It just feels like, oh, look, here's another part of me that's trying to help. Okay, what do you want me to know? How can I help you? How can I hold space for you? So, yeah.
Yeah, no, what I meant with the mechanical is just saying that, like, the big part listens to the other and then makes a decision, but it is a lot
Mhm.
more than that because there's the human piece of it too. It's not just like, "Let me hear everybody and then make my decision." Like, there's the intuition and, like, the feelings and, like, there's a lot more to it than just hearing the different parts of yourself and then making a decision, like, but yet it is, if you're really grounded, it is the bigger part that's the ultimate decision maker, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, and I think you're integrating them in. It's
Mm,
like at the end, they all just want what's for your best. So even if this part's like, I don't want to do this, and it's like, okay, why? And it's like, because I feel like I'm going to feel stupid. Okay, what's here? Why would I feel stupid? Well, if it fails, then everybody's going to laugh at me. Okay, it might fail, but then we're going to learn something, but it might succeed or it might be okay. Okay, well, I'm okay with those two, but I don't want to fail. We can't, like, it's like having that conversation so that part feels safe enough to be held versus like, we're not listening to you. Like, please, because so many people are like, I'm not going to listen to fear. I'm not going to listen to anxiety. And it's like cutting off parts of yourself that are just trying to be like, hi, we're driving on the side of a cliff. Please don't turn right now. Like, don't turn right. And then they're like, they're not listening. Scream it louder. Like the more we are like, shh, shh, the louder everything gets. But when we're just like, okay, yeah, what do you need to tell me? It like all integrates. So it's not even like I'm making this choice on behalf of everybody, all my parts. It's here's what feels true and good and resonant because this part feels seen and held. And I know that I'll be okay no matter what happens. Does that make sense?
absolutely. That's so great. Like, that's, I'm like, "Oh, man, we could do a whole video just on that."
Yeah.
The
It's my
integration piece,
favorite. It's the work I love doing because, like,
that's awesome.
ugh, it's magic. Yeah. It's good stuff. Yeah. Thank you for having me today. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm excited about all this. So, yeah, thank you, and, maybe we'll do it again.